born creative. The main limitations are the ones we impose on ourselves.
Please talk to me. Won't you please just talk to me?
I never get up on stage without some sense of panic.
If you only talk to me.
I make no pretenses about playing music of anyone else's culture.
Seems to be about communication in general.
I think so. It's principally us as two people, a man and a woman, but it's also, us as in people as a whole. I mean, in a sense, the lie is that them exists at all. In a way, there is only us. Yeah, I think I have a wonderful life in most of the areas except relationships. And I think that's something, I've had to look at and work on, and, that's a difficult area for me. I think, other people have other problems, whether it's sort of money, job, friends. Those things so far have not been difficult for me, but the relationship, is something that I've had to focus on, and I think it's required stripping away some of the layers and looking down at things that I didn't particularly want to look at.
And songwriting is part of the process?
Yeah, I think songwriting, you can dump a lot of the stuff out in a way and feel lighter and relieved at the end of it.
Give me steam, and how you feel can make it real. Real as anything you see. Get along with the dreamer's dream. You know your culture from your trash. You know your plastic from your cash. When on the side of the track, you know the way back, but I know you. You know you're stripped from your pain. You know you're sinner from your sin. Whenever heaven's doors are shut, you get them open, but I know you.
Sometimes the words will give a sound and a rhythm color that will just help lift it and take it some other place, as well as what's going on with the meaning. Usually I have some simple idea that sticks out at the beginning, like something like "Come Talk to Me," but the rest of the words and the verses come much later when I've already got the chords and melodies mapped out. Come Talk to Me grew out of a Senegalese groove that I'd recorded a long time back with Doudou and Jay Rose, this Senegalese master drummer, and it was a groove that I liked a lot. We chopped up a little bit of it and added some other beats. I tried to introduce quite a lot of textures. I think it's sort of more of a journey than some of the other tracks, and starting off with these bagpipes. There was something quite sort of gutsy and primal about the sound of pipes. not sure which is the most confessional song, but that started just after the breakup of my marriage, and one of my youngest daughter I couldn't communicate with, and it's really, she's sort of blocked off, and so that was where the original Come Talk to Me came from, and then I think some echoes of the other relationships came in there as well. But I think, you know, a lot of people have yearned for that sometimes when they get shut off from people that they care about, so you've got something else to plug into them.
The idea is that we have two stages, which are very different worlds. The square stage is more the high-tech, high-energy stage, and the round here is more a quiet environmental stage. Right. And the river in between the two is kind of our transition spot, where we hopefully connect the two worlds and illustrate how to work in between the two.
There's a sort of a Canadian connection to this, isn't it? Because you worked with
That's right, Robert Lepage.
What did he bring to
An awful lot. He works very closely with Peter for quite a while, almost a year in the planning stages, and I would say it's nearly a 50-50 split between the actual ideas and also in implementing. Robert brought in some of his team, so we're working with both a standard rock and roll team of technicians and crew, as well as a theatrical team from Robert.
Personally, I didn't like what I felt I was becoming in that role, and I did feel that the thing itself, because of its success, was becoming a little more conservative. You know, now if I want to do something which appears stupid or unnecessarily dangerous or risky to the other people I work with, I'm entitled to do it because it's fundamentally my thing which I'm putting at risk. The role of rock star in inverted commas in a big band, making records and touring, became a little mechanical, and at that time I just had some kids at home and so on, and wanted to have some time there and time to develop in things other than rock music, because I think you see a lot of hollow shells that have been performing this sort of routine function for a long time, and I didn't want to become that. There definitely has been a split, and that some of the Genesis fans really positively dislike my current stuff, find it too abrasive, and vice versa. And I think that's healthy, because there's no point in continuing if you're functioning in the same area as the group that you were with previously. says he doesn't take notice of the reviews is a liar, but it's the degree to which you allow yourself to be influenced. I think I first of all have to please myself with the music, and then when that's finished, then I'll try and put it out to sell it in whatever way I can. But I think to aim it in advance of completing the music, either for the public, for commercial things, or for the critics, is dangerous. And so I'm not conscious of that at the time of doing it, but I am conscious of what they say when I've done it.
This song was written for a very brave man. A man who preached non-violence in a state which has racism enshrined in its constitution. A man who was imprisoned, tortured and killed in a jail in South Africa. This is for Stephen Biko.
There are grand ideas about social reform as a result of pop music, which I think are greatly exaggerated. But I think what you can do is perhaps trigger ideas and tap people's thinking into a given direction, and that's useful. But I don't think you can change the world.
September 77, Port Elizabeth, weather fine. It was
What's your name, Captain?
as usual.
Say it! Say your name!
Oh, because
Back to Stephen Biko.
oh,
Is there any way to equate the feeling you had when you wrote the song Biko to the feeling of delivering it to a song at an event like this?
Oh, I think it's really, for me, it's very pleasing that there's this number of people that are here in this purpose. I mean, whether some are here for the music or not doesn't matter. There's still a lot more publicity for the situation in South Africa than there has been in a lot of recent months because of the effectiveness of the South African news blackout. In the press, there's been a lot of stuff about why rock musicians are so hung up on South Africa when there are so many other governments of the world committing atrocities of all sorts. And the answer is that it is the only country in the world that has racism enshrined in its constitution. There are still people getting murdered, people getting tortured. There is a state of emergency, as they call it, and it's outrageous that it is allowed to continue and that so many businesses are still continuing to trade with South Africa.
Stop right there. This is an illegal gathering. I'm giving you 3 minutes to disperse. Who are you?
Columbus to the jail in South Africa. Columbus still being tortured.
It was at an earlier press conference when Bono pointed out that the people that have suffered torture in the last 6 months is a greater in number than those involved in the outrages against the Jewish people in Germany in the war. I have some German friends my age who were asking their parents how they could just sit back knowing that these things were going on. And I hope when my kids ask me that question in connection with the outrages and torture that's going on in the world now, that I'll be able to say that I did something on this tour, and I'm very proud to be here.
You can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. Once the flame begins to catch, the wind will blow it higher. Oh,
wonderful day of hopefully consciousness raising. Did you feel it was a successful event?
I think so. I think that the difference was, in a way, that it was a tour as well, and so there had been that continuity, and amongst all the artists, we'd really sort of established some sort of rapport and quite a lot of fun. You know, we had pillow fights in the airplane, we had jamming sessions in the hotel bar, and I think there was a lot of stuff going on which just opened it up for us. And then at the end of the concert, sometimes you'd meet people who'd been in jail for 6 years or been tortured for many months on end, and they'd be there shaking your hand with tears in their eyes, and suddenly there was a real sense of why we were doing it.
We are shaking the tree.
In the 60s, you know, was great for image, style, and rebellion, but actually achieved very little. And if the 80s has done one thing, it has shown that real direct and practical actions make real differences to people's lives. And maybe that's a more adult and more boring and realistic viewpoint or worldview, but I'd rather live in a society where people are making some attempts to improve the world than one that couldn't give a damn.
All that glitters is gold, 'cause the story has never been told. Now you see the light, stand up for your right. Hey, get up, stand up, get up, stand up, stand up for your right. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up, get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
I think what I believe in is the power of people, that if there's enough people who shout loudly about something they really care about, that politicians have to take notice because their electoral future is dependent on us. In democracies anyway, politicians are afraid of elections. So if we make our voice as ordinary people loud enough, they will be forced to respond for their own survival. I mean, I think, you know, with my music, it's on one sense a fairly superficial level. I make no pretenses about playing music of anyone else's culture, but just say there'd be rhythm patterns which I use to start writing stuff around, which are taken from somewhere else, and they may sound, you know, where the beats are placed in the bar to be more interesting in, say, this Pakistani Qawwali music, for instance, as against mainstream rock. So it'll still, when you hear it, sound maybe not like a lot of rock and roll you hear, but it'll still sound Western, but the feel will be a bit different, I hope. I felt that if there was so much in this music of other cultures that excited me, then there would be at least some of it which could get through to a large audience, because I don't feel I'm that different to the people that I play to. And so we set about with a group of people from Bristol who are running a sort of record magazine called the Bristol Recorder, bringing together musicians from, I think, about 50 countries with people like Echo and the Bunnymen, Simple Minds, The Beat, XTC, yeah, and I mean, at the concert as well as on the record. This was an attempt to use that power that rock has to open people up a little bit. And all these ardent promoters were telling us there's no way that an audience will, listen to Chinese opera in between Simple Minds and Peter Gabriel, and that was quite wrong. I mean, the audience in some cases were bemused, but they were very warm and curious. Whatever country you're born in, whatever language you speak, you should have a chance to get your music heard around the world if it's good. What often happens is that musicians hang out in the cafe or backstage on the buses and just start jamming together, and none of this is ever recorded. So originally we just thought we'd punch a week's hole in the touring schedule, because the festival now functions in 14 countries, and hijack all the musicians into the studio and invite people, as it were, to bring their own studios. So some people come with little 8-track setups and DAT machines. There are some producers in the different rooms who try and steer, but essentially, if an artist has an idea and they meet someone in Lulu's cafe that they get talking to and hear some great things from, then they can book some time to do something with them. For any musician, and for me especially, it's the most exciting week of the year.
I know that you're feeling bad, but I'm glad you didn't. Easy to get caught up, but you know you can't always.
Well, I've been aware of her for a number of years, and I think her work is really good, very strong, and from just being a sort of good singer and good writer, I think she's got real command of the sort of sounds and textures she uses. And although I didn't get a whole lot of time to work with her during the week, it was enough for me to see how strong her abilities are. And I'm sure it's not going to be very long before she has a sort of a major breakthrough around the world.
Jane plays with Willie. Willie is happy again. Suki plays with Leo. Sasha plays with Brit. Adolf builds a bonfire. Enrico plays with it. With some big tunes we hide in the dunes by the seaside. looks could kill, they probably will. In games without frontiers, war without tears.
The idea that perhaps adults seen as kids and countries behaving toward each other in a way that adults are unable to behave, so that, i.e. through war, etc., different set of moral codes.
Whistling tunes, we hide in the dunes by the seaside. Whistling tunes, we're kissing baboons in the jungle. It's a knockout. If looks could kill, they probably will. In games without frontiers, war without tears.
Definitely other things that I'm interested in. A lot of visual things, video. With the coming of video cassette, video disc, there's going to be a new medium created, which hasn't perhaps been properly envisaged so far, in that most people are thinking of it in terms of servicing films and live performances, and not so much creating something specifically for the media.
Why don't you make your intentions clear? Lies to the sun, your mouth to the soul. They say, tell me the truth, you got nothing to fear. Start staring at me like a bird of prey. You're all mixed up, you got nothing to say. I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't recall. I got no memories of anything at all. I don't remember. I don't recall. I got no memories of anything. Anything at all. I was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
See you tomorrow.
I think it's a terrible shame the way some artists are just prepared to spend a couple of hours with a video director and let another company just come and illustrate their work. I think it's an important part of what you do, and it's a responsibility of the artist to get involved and to learn a bit about it.
You could have a big dipper going up and down all around the bends. You could have a thunder car bumping. This amusement never ends. I wanna be your sledgehammer. Why don't you call my name? Oh, let me be your sledgehammer. This will be my testimony.
There is one special award that we've not told you about just yet. That's the Coca-Cola Award for Innovation in Video, as voted by members of international television companies all over the world. The winner of that award, Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer!
I've always appreciated humor and seen, some humor in things that I do, but I think this is the first time that it's come through visually properly, so it pleases me.
And I will pray to a big God as I kneel in the big church. Big time. I'm on my way, I'm making it. Big time. Yes. Big time. I've got to make it show, yeah. Big time. Big time. So much love.
the opportunities of just letting the imagination loose are obviously limitless in that format.
With the Digging in the Dirt video was that idea that while things are buried and hidden under the ground, they can get strong, powerful, and oppressive. And then when you open it up and there's the daylight coming through, then the devils really will have their balls cut off. You know, their strength is gone. Really, with lyrics, I just follow my nose, and sometimes then I look back afterwards to see really what I've been writing about. I think there are some things on this album which have some social framework or context, but there are certain bits which are more abstract, perhaps. I never get up on stage without some sense of panic. I think part of it is just commitment, is just being prepared to push yourself out there, and because it's naturally, I think you get nervous when you're standing in front of a group of other people, and either you go for it or you hold back, and there's sometimes you can really feel it in waves, you know, going through the audience, and when you're boring them and they're not interested, you know, as the wave shrinks back towards you. And I think what enables us to be effective often is when the feeling or the passion of the music is greater than the ego. And I mean, I think all musicians know that moment, and it's a magic moment when it happens.
You were with Atlantic, and you said that they thought you'd gone off into space on Peter Gabriel 3, and then Pauly Graham picked it up and it was the most successful album.
Yeah.
Are you still out in space?
Well, I believe that the man who thought that the third album was commercial suicide has said that the fourth one is a warrant for my being institutionalized.
School, it was a choice for me between whether I went to film school or carried on as a musician. And now for me, when I get these opportunities to work with great directors doing these soundtracks, you know, for me it's a fantastic opportunity to go into the editing room and sit around and watch them work and feel involved.
On the Passion record, which was enormously important for me, I think I learned a lot. I was working without words, very freehand composition, and trying to come up with a sound that was sort of both ancient and modern, and although it had Middle Eastern references, really tried to work in some influences and performances from all around the world. His main contribution on this record was in helping me at the initial points just get the best out of the material, and secondly in performance. I think he's very respectful of the magic of performance, and so often if something felt like I had an idea to do something and it seemed like something was about to happen, rather than take 2 hours getting the sound, by which time the energy is dispersed, straight hit the record button and we were off. And then we'd have to sort out the sound problems afterwards, but at least that way we got the spirit. And I think, in a way, the feel of the playing is looser and more human, perhaps, on this record than before. Even when we were doing overdubs, we'd be dancing around the studio and trying to get a live performance atmosphere in a way. Daniel would play a little guitar, and David Rhodes, my guitarist, and the three of us would quite often be in the studio working on things, and we'd put on yellow builder's protection hats and get up and dance while we played. And whenever we had a guest in, too, we'd, instead of all sitting around, politely in this sort of cold, analytical environment, we'd get up and grab percussion instruments, and that way I think the studio was kept as a sort of alive environment. I think Daniel is a great producer, and perhaps one of his best qualities is his ear for magic. He knows how to push me, and both musically and lyrically, and perhaps further than I might go on my own. He supports the artists in what they're trying to do. So the Neville Brothers, Dylan, U2, and my records don't sound the same. I think there's maybe some of Dan's influence there and ways of doing things, but they're very much the records of the artist being encouraged in their own directions.
In this proud land we grew up strong. We were wanted all along. I was taught to fight, taught to win. I never thought I could fail. No fight left, or so it seems. I am a man whose dreams have all deserted. I've changed my face, I've changed my name, but no one wants you when you lose.
Don't give up, 'cause you have friends. Don't give up, you're not beaten yet.
She wasn't afraid to try things, and I think was exploring sort of textures in a very interesting way, and using her voice in a textural way as well as a sort of a song carrier. And Laurie, who I think is just an extraordinary mind, and I come out of one of her shows, with head really kicked into another gear, ideas sort of really running over, and so that fascination with invention and new ideas goes along with her music.
Looking out, I'm watching out. When I see the future, I close my eyes. I can see it now. ready. I see pictures of people rising up. I see pictures of people falling down. I see pictures of people standing on their heads. They're ready. They're looking out. Look out. They're watching out. Watch out. They're looking out. Look out. They're watching out. Watching out. The people. Watching. They're watching. See pictures of people. Watching out. I see pictures of people. Watching out. Watch out. I see pictures of people. Watching out.
It's a sort of logical extension of the work I do, as I think it is for Brian Eno and Laurie Anderson.
We've had some development money, but we're still in an idea stage, and we're sort of still 2 stages away, really. But there's a site earmarked for us. There's a mayor and a city that wants to do it, but there are some sort of political decisions, because I think that the state is right-wing and the city is socialist. So we have to get through some of those hurdles. It is the alternative theme park. The technology is there now to put people inside the world of the artist, to put them in those ideas and emotions. Because there shouldn't be any separation between artists and non-artists. We're all born creative, and I've always thought that it's basically people that need to start doing creative things that end up doing them for one reason or another, rather than just virtue of this sort of mysterious thing called talent, which I think is a little overrated. I've always thought, well, if I can do it, then anyone can. I think there's a lot you can do in terms of feeling good about yourself, finding about yourself, learning what's going on, just through anything creative. I love this idea, that with some of the sort of Casio revolution and so on, but music is available to a lot more people now than it was before. And similarly, some of the possibilities with video, now all that video editing and effects stuff is getting into the camcorder land. The main limitations are the ones we impose on ourselves.
You must have such a big agenda. Do you feel like you have the time to do it all?
Sometimes not, because there's some wonderful opportunities that I get offered now, and I hate to say no. So it tends that I take on more things than I should sometimes, but getting a little better at that.
Time get hard and get harder still.
Birthday present from the rag and bone shop. A heart that works too well.
A heart that won't stop beating. Though sometimes I wish it would stop. Stop.
When all the things that you're involved with, the music and the theme park and the amnesty and all these things, somehow, I mean, when you ask yourself the question of, why am I empowered to be able to do all these things? What am I, it's just, why am I here, I guess, is the question. What do you answer?
I don't know. I think, sometimes I just get on with stuff that I really enjoy and find exciting, and it's sort of selfish motivation. And then, other times I feel a bit like a vehicle with a job to do. So, it's a bit of both.
In the mud of you, lie the woman and the man, the man and the woman and the man. In the mud of you, lie the woman and the man. We wanted the union. Oh, the union of the woman and the man.
Of my I request you take me in that tenderness. I am floating away, no certainty, nothing to rely on, holding still for a moment. What a moment this is. Oh, for a moment of forgetting, a moment of bliss. I can hear the distant thunder of a million unheard souls, of a million unheard souls. Watch each one reach for creature comfort, for the filling of their holes. In the blood